Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm honored to present the finals of the winter 2016 season of Sam Mann's Black Crusade, his online Conquest LCG competitive league. And for today's game, at the top of the screen we have OCTGN user dlord aka Misha, whom hails from Belarus. On the bottom of the screen, playing as our latest Astra Militarum faction warlord, we have Prezi from Poland, aka Marek, and it looks as though this is going to be a Tyranid versus Imperial Guard game. It looks like dlord is going to begin the game holding our initiative token. Dlord is going to keep his opening hand, and Prezi is currently in the process of deciding whether or not he wants to keep his. So, looks like both players are actually going to indeed keep their opening hands. It's going to be dlord's initial deploy action. He's playing as Old One-Eye, the regenerating Carnifex warlord, with the choice of synapse unit being the Stalking Lictor for some really powerful economy here. Looks like his opening game, he's got a copy of Scything Hormagaunts for some automatic infestation. He's got a copy of his signature army unit to reassign some damage to his warlord, and it looks like we could see an earliest possible victory being at planet number 4 through blue technology icons, or I suppose failing that, we'll have to see what our remaining 2 planets end up being, if we see a victory through green or red. Just assessing the remainder of dlord's hand, he's got a copy of Regeneration, which he could throw on this Volatile Pyrovore, so some fantastic value there, and he's even got a Toxic Venom Thrope for early game economy, and something unconventional about dlord's deck is I believe he plays a rather Termagant-heavy version of Old One-Eye. He's got Termagant hordes, and if memory serves, just having heard rumor and conjecture throughout the duration of the tournament, I believe he runs Clogged with Corpses in his Old One-Eye deck, so a rather unconventional include, but it could definitely pay off in a very big way against the forward barracks possessing Broderick Worr. So, our opening deploy action is going to be a copy of Lurking Hormagaunts put out to planet number 1. He's going to potentially be able to attack for 3 with initiative. Broderick, trying to deny as much information as possible, puts out a copy of Staging Ground to dump additional units, kind of as need be, on any planet during the combat round here. And then he's got a copy of Inquisitorial Fortress to pinpoint rout an enemy unit. He's got one of his own copies of his signature army unit, the Anxious Infantry Platoon, and of course he's also got an Elysian Assault Team, so he could have a rather stubborn presence at these planets. He's got Mystic Warden, which costs nothing but can attack for 3, and he's got Steel Legion Chimera and Captain Marcus just for some fantastic defense here. So Old One-Eye is a very interesting choice for dlord going into the finals. He's had great competitive success with our Tyranids, but all the same, Tyranids are not widely considered to be a competitive option, and with everything on the line here, this is 11 weeks in the making. It's definitely a bit of a gamble to go with Old One-Eye, but it's currently going to be Old One-Eye's choice of deploy. Planet number 1 is Karnath, the wild card planet. You can trigger the battle ability of any other planet in place. That could be Elwith to draw additional cards. It could be Barless to do a forced random card discard, or it could be Yvarn, which for a Tyranid could actually pay off pretty well. And then our last planet, of course, is that resource-stealing Ossus 4. But at planet number 1, looks like our second deploy action is going to be a copy of Regeneration, affixed to the Lurking Hormagaunt, which is going to make it a 3/3, of course, with initiative, where you can reassign some of that damage to Old One-Eye. If Old One-Eye shows up somewhere to kill an economy unit, he could take reassigned damage from the Hormagaunt. Then at the end of the combat round, he could ready strip half of that damage off of him, or the Hormagaunt could take some damage itself and then just regen away that damage. So Old One-Eye still has, kind of the Traxxas sector is his oyster in regard to where we might end up seeing him sent during the command phase. And for Prezi, he's got Broderick Worr sitting here, and he, too, kind of has the privilege of showing up wherever he wants. This copy of Staging Ground is going to be fantastic in allowing Prezi to kind of respond only as necessary to our Tyranid. What's going to be very tricky is we could have the Stalking Lictor show up here at planet number 3, where currently sits an Anxious Infantry platoon, and use its 2 command icons to conveniently shut off that 1. And if there's, I guess, anything our AM player doesn't really have in his opening hand, it's going to be a cheap 2 command icon unit. So that Stalking Lictor's great to just pick wherever you want your opponent to not win command, and I suppose at present it's looking like Old One-Eye's not really going to need to send himself to planet number 1 in order to be able to win there. I think Elwith, planet number 2, is going to be a fantastic choice for either of our players just to accrue those cards, to trigger that battle ability, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Broderick show up at that planet, but if he does, if he shows up adjacent to Old One-Eye, even though Old One-Eye is going to be able to attack first, the Warlords could kind of exchange blows, and then we could see Mystic Warden or an army unit drawn during the command phase drop into play. Something interesting that we see here is now this is going to be the Toxic Venomthrope deployed to planet number 3, so that's going to be 2 command icons already winning command against on Barless here against the Anxious Infantry platoon, so if Broderick were to show up to that planet, he could potentially kill the Venomthrope, but then that might leave Old One-Eye just free to win at Elwith. So Old One-Eye would be drawing a card, kind of his choice of the top 3 of his deck, and then Barless would be doing that forced random card discard. I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see like a general dearth of units here at planet number 4. It's green, which feeds into Broderick very well, but all the same, I don't know. Yvarin's ability at present really isn't going to be doing too terribly much. Termagant Horde would be a decent card to put into play through that effect, but then again, so would the Steel Legion Chimera, and it looks like I need not keep hypothesizing for long because both of our players have already passed. We've got a copy of Captain Marcus now positioned at planet number 2. He himself is going to be a 2/3 where you can sack other AM units at his planet to exhaust, well, sack any AM unit, himself included, to exhaust non-warlords. But I'll be very curious to see where Old One-Eye is going to go. I would imagine that planet number 1 is going to be uncontested by Broderick Worr. That could be a random card discard or that random card draw, or because Prezi currently only has 1 resource, that'll be a great option for dlord to get a bit of information and then trigger his battle ability based on how many resources or cards Prezi is holding. So the Emperor's Warrant is always something to look out for when you're up against the Imperial Guard, and then again the same exact thing could be said for Preemptive Barrage. So dlord is done with having chosen his locations. He could send the Stalking Lictor to planet number 2. Looks like he is going to send Old One-Eye to planet number 2, and he's going to send his Synapse unit to planet number 5. So looks like Worr is not actually going to get any income, and this could be the start of what could just ravage and devastate the economy of the Astra Militarum player, because we see our Tyranid win command on 3 different planets. So that's going to be a total of 3 resources and 3 cards for our Tyranid, and then it looks like just 2 cards for Prezi. Prezi did end up getting a copy of Forward Barracks, which is definitely a bit of a game changer, kind of lamented and, I don't know, just bemoaned by our community as being a possibly overpowered card. This could make a hell of a difference in regard to the outcome of this game. The earlier you can play it, the better. At the end of each and every combat round, provided you've got an AM unit sitting upon a planet, you generate a Guardsman token. If it's sitting at a green strongpoint possessing planet like 3, 4, and 5, then those are going to be 2/2 soldier trait tokens that are eligible for Elysian Assault Team. Looks like dlord is currently thinking about planet number 1. Prezi may or may not be thinking about whether or not he wants to trigger his Staging Ground, and this game is absolutely full of spectators here. We've got the Dutch national champion. We've got Eric Kielbach, who just joined, went undefeated during the 6 consecutive weeks of Swiss for this same tournament. Davis Kingsley, the 2nd place gentleman of the 2014 World Championship and the top 4 in the 2015 North American Championship. So some fantastic players spectating this live game. And just in regard to cards, that our Tyranid has come across. He got a second copy of the Volatile Pyrovore, which is an incredible value unit. Even something along the lines of the Anxious Infantry Platoon upon killing a Pyrovore could potentially itself succumb to that interrupt, which deals out damage to its attacker. And if at any point we have Broderick Worr kind of forced into a position where he either has to attack one of those units or retreat, you can kind of rest assured that Broderick Worr is going to be abandoning that planet in relatively short order. We've got a copy of Spawn Termagants, another very unusual include for an old One-Eye deck. It generates a Termagant token upon each and every planet in play, so again, that's going to be fantastic with Clogged with Corpses, and hopefully, for the sake of our Tyranid player, we can see him drawing a copy of Clogged with Corpses if this forward barracks graces the tabletop here. As much as I like Prezi and as much as I respect him, I definitely would not mind seeing my dearly beloved Tyranids win our finals here. So this is going to be a single elimination round. After 11 weeks, whoever wins this game is going to take home the championship title, and unfortunately our second place individual, much like myself, eliminated in the top 8, is probably going to be forgotten in the annals of history. But with only one possible champion here, planet number 1 is going to be activating the battle ability of Elowith. So that will afford dlord the chance to take the look at his top 3 cards, pick one of those to add to his hand. What kind of is too bad for Prezi is if he's not able to reestablish himself economically, he may really struggle to kind of come out ahead against our Tyranid, just because our Tyranid is getting so many fantastic value units. Looks like Elowith has added a Toxic Venom Thrope to Old One-Eye's hand, and that could just really create all the more financial drain here on Broderick Worr, even though he's got some pretty damn decent units in hand. So, Old One-Eye is going to be fighting against Captain Marcus. Captain Marcus is going to be able to attack Old One-Eye for 2, and then we could see the Staging Ground drop a Mystic Warden into play to attack for an additional 2. Note that Elowith here is not a green planet, so therefore Broderick Worr is not going to be able to confer his beneficial ability to these units, and our Tyranid doesn't really have much in hand in the way of shields. He's just got this 1 shield card, Spawn Termagants, but our Astra Militarum player has absolutely nothing in regards to shields. So we could see Captain Marcus attack for 2, so that's 2 damage onto Old One-Eye, then the Mystic Warden swings, that's 4 damage on Old One-Eye, but then Old One-Eye could swing, kill Captain Marcus, the Mystic Warden could potentially attack again, we could see that 1 shield card used, and that would be Old One-Eye at 1 hit point remaining, but then next time he has the opportunity to ready, that could be 3 points of damage healed off of him. But whether we see that now, whether we see that later, it's going to be Captain Marcus taking a swing at Old One-Eye. That's going to be 2 points of damage. And let's see if our Imperial Guard player loses his unique unit without having the opportunity to really benefit from that ability, then that is about going to suck. And because Karnath ended up being captured by Old One-Eye, that's going to be a blue technology icon and a red material type icon for him. So, like I said before, that could be, if our Tyranid wins, our soon-to-be planet number 1, if our Tyranid wins soon-to-be planet number 3, Yavarn, that could be the game as early as that. I think it's all going to come down to how much of a difference is forward barracks going to make. Is Broderick going to be able to get back into this game economically after that bit of a shit show the first turn? But it looks like dlord has passed on actions, and now it's all going to be up to Prezi. Does he want to use Staging Ground now? What really kind of sucks is that if you over-invest in attempting to bloody Old One-Eye but fail to do so, he's going to be able to kind of just pull a lot of damage tokens off of himself, and each and every card that our AM player throws away, that might make it all the less likely that Prezi's going to be able to win. So it's been a very long time since I've had the opportunity to show one of these premier matches involving a Tyranid. Old One-Eye does not use his reaction, of course. No real benefit in just pulling off 1 point of damage. Old One-Eye has to decide to stay first, so he does decide not to retreat. Looks like Captain Marcus instead decides to retreat, and this is going to be Elowith's battle ability triggered for the second time in the same round by Old One-Eye. So I can only imagine he's going to be probably perusing his deck for the likes of, I can only imagine Clogged with Corpses, just because it's going to be of integral, just paramount importance to get rid of not only troop transports, but this forward barracks here. And looks like he did come across a copy of Clogged with Corpses, so let us see on Prezi's turn. Hopefully he'll throw out that forward barracks, we'll see a spawn Termagants, and then we'll see that Clogged with Corpses end up destroying forward barracks. And I would just be absolutely delighted if Old One-Eye takes this one, even though he's not my favorite Tyranid Warlord. I definitely would not mind seeing that happen. Again, no offense to Prezi. I just always have to cheer for the underdog here. But at planet number 2, that is going to be the Toxic Venomthrope destroyed, and that could spell possible disaster here for dlord. Out of all of his randomly discarded cards, he lost his copy of Spawn Termagants, and now all of a sudden he's going to have to rely on Termagant Horde to generate multiple Termagants prior to being able to actually use that Clogged with Corpses and rid the sector here of the forward barracks or a troop transport. Speaking of troop transport, looks like Prezi's not out of this yet because he came across a copy of Ammo Depot. Note that he's nowhere near being able to activate that support. You have to have 3 or fewer cards in hand, and he's nowhere near that. But he did get a copy of Troop Transport to potentially drop 2 Guardsman tokens into play at a green planet. They derive all the defensive benefits that Broderick Worr confers. And I suppose for dlord, he came across his 3rd copy of Volatile Pyrovore, and he also got a Virulent Spore Sacs, a bit of area effect type damage to kill off the AM units here in droves. So, we've gone through an HQ phase. Our new 5th planet's going to be Aatrox Prime, that allows you to bombard an adjacent planet or the enemy HQ, and something to keep in mind now is that both of our warlords are going to have their movement confined by having a unit in their HQ. So wherever Old One-Eye goes, he's going to drop off this Lurking Hormigaunt. We could see our Tyranid deploy pretty heavily to planet number 1 with those Virulent Spore Sacs and try to win that, and then we could just potentially see Old One-Eye sent to Yavvarn just to drop off this Lurking Hormigaunt for an early as possible victory condition at that planet. If he can achieve critical unit mass, he might be able to outpace a forward barracks. So there's just kind of a lot that remains to be seen. We see that Termagant Horde being played at planet number 1. So after a combat round at that planet begins, you put a Termagant token into play, so no matter what, we're going to have at least a combat round begin. That's going to be at least one Termagant token being created, and that could allow Clogged with Corpses to destroy this troop transport. Like at the beginning of a combat round, you've got your Termagant Horde creating a Termagant token, then you've got an action, then you could destroy the troop transport with Clogged with Corpses by sacrificing that Termagant, and even if you don't end up destroying the forward barracks, that could still be a pretty significant blow, just because Prezi is kind of struggling to come up with the volume of resources necessary to throw a lot of units out onto the tabletop here. So at the moment, I wouldn't be shocked to see Old One-Eye go to planet number 3, although I certainly could be wrong. The Lictor could go to planet number 4 to get all the more resources to fund all these fantastic Tyranid cards, and then planet number 5, I could really see that being the destination of either player. Broderick Worr is kind of in a crappy situation because he's going to be sending Captain Marcus wherever he goes. Broderick is probably going to not want to show up at planet number 3 because that's a likely destination for Old One-Eye, but if he goes to Ossus 4, that's going to be dropping off Captain Marcus outside of his, desirable victory condition planet, and if that happens, then Marcus is just going to be sitting here. He's unique, so you're not going to be able to throw another copy into play at Yavvarn, where it could be relevant to your opponent's victory condition, but I suppose I also wouldn't be surprised to see Broderick go to planet 4. He pretty desperately needs resources in a sense. He could win a couple there, drop off Captain Marcus to keep winning resources during subsequent rounds, and he could trigger that battle ability. To no one's surprise, dlord puts out a copy of Volatile Pyrovore at planet number 1, so even though it doesn't have initiative, it's likely to be able to survive at least one attack, despite Staging Ground sitting here. And of course, as soon as it is destroyed by an attack, it's going to deal damage directly to its attacker. So like I've said, an incredibly efficient unit. Staging Ground could definitely change things, but it's going to be Prezi's deploy turn again, and he's going to be down to 3 resources. We could see the forward barracks, but at the moment, it's looking like there may be better plays, just because I don't think that there's going to be a significant combat occurring this turn. I suppose Prezi is going to have an Anxious Infantry platoon and a Steel Legion Chimera to dump into play somewhere. He threw out a copy of Inquisitorial Fortress to rout a target army unit, so that doesn't include tokens or synapse or warlords. But it could get rid of a copy of Volatile Pyrovore, and that is a little bit favorable economically, like a 2 resource cost support to effectively remove a Pyrovore from the game or something wouldn't be a bad play by any means. And it could also get rid of this Lurking Hormigaunt with Regeneration, and then that would just be incredible value, removing, a powerful attachment on a powerful unit. If possible, Old One-Eye is probably going to want to either pick off an economy unit or end up showing up at Yavvarn. And just because of the way that those green planet-type icons have been dropped on the tabletop, we could see this game go unfavorably for Broderick, but he's getting more and more supports, and it just definitely is not a warlord to be underestimated. Staging Ground could do something like drop an Anxious Infantry platoon into play to attack unexpectedly for 4. Old One-Eye does not have the luxury of an indescribable horror like the Swarmlord would, so that could definitely work out not so great for Old One-Eye. And of course, Elysian Assault Team can deploy off of Anxious Infantry platoon being killed, or not deploy, but interplay, and then it itself could attack for 3, so I would not be surprised to see our regenerating Tyranid Warlord bloodied at any point during this match. Ferocious Strength could definitely come into play at some point to allow Old One-Eye to do some pretty significant damage, but I just think this is going to be a little bit tricky. We do have Mystic Warden going out to planet number 1, and this is going to be interesting. So it's a 0-cost unit, it attacks for 2, and as soon as a battle at its current planet ends, you have to sacrifice it. Inquisitorial Fortress could do something like remove the Volatile Pyrovore from that planet, but Troop Transport could even be used somewhat suboptimally at planet number 1, just to drop a single Guardsman token into play. If we've got Forward Barracks out, if you pop a Troop Transport to put a token into play, a combat round ends, and you generate another Guardsman token, that still seems like it works out just fine. And if you're going to be able to use the Fortress to remove the Volatile Pyrovore, Termagant Horde as a 1/3 isn't really doing too much by itself. I don't necessarily think that Broderick Worr is going to be going to Boundless to put all of his eggs in that basket, but I guess our Tyranid just kind of change the dynamic ever so slightly by putting out a copy of Toxic Venom Thrope to planet number 2. So in a sense, that's maybe incentivizing Broderick to go to that planet. He'll be able to kill off the Toxic Venom Thrope again, but if he does that, as opposed to Ossus 4, he's going to be really deprived of resources, and it looks like our Tyranid is potentially going to be able to have a pretty healthy dose of either. It seems as though dlord did pretty well economically the first round, and now I'm just really curious to see how things are going to play out if Prezi keeps being starved of resources, if he's not going to be able to play forward barracks plus enough units to really get that attrition grind going, then our Tyranid with these incredible value units like the Pyrovores and everything else, things could end up going pretty well for him. But dlord, after this Venom Thrope, is essentially going to be out of deploy actions, and now it's going to be basically up to Prezi. What do you want to do, Prezi? Do you want to put your Anxious Infantry platoon out to planet number 4 outside of your opponent's earliest possible victory condition just to start accruing resources, or do you want to keep that unit to be staging grounded into play? So there's a lot of interesting decisions for Prezi still to make, and why don't I pause for a moment and just see what he ends up deciding to do. Okay, it looks like he decides to throw out a copy of Ammo Depot, but he's still 1 card away from being able to actually trigger it, but I would imagine that could definitely change going into our combat phase. And I suppose dlord has now passed, and what will we see from prezi? Will we see forward barracks, or will we see anxious infantry platoon? I guess here at planet number 1, let's say Old One-Eye doesn't show up, and Broderick himself does not arrive at that same planet. I guess first of all, Broderick could arrive and maintain initiative. He could win that card bonus for sure, but we could see Inquisitorial Fortress remove the Volatile Pyrovore. We could see the Mystic Warden deal, well, potentially kill a Termagant token created by the Termagant Horde. The Horde is only going to be able to attack for 1. It's not going to be able to kill the Mystic Warden in just 1 swing. And if that's the case, I think it's relatively likely that we might see forward barracks come into play and result in a bit of a grinding loss at planet number 1 for our Tyranid. So perhaps Old One-Eye will end up going to planet number 1. If he does, he's going to drop off his Lurking Hormigaunt, but he might just try to win planet number 1, and then during the following round end up arriving to Yvvarn. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Stalking Lictor go for Ossus 4 or for Aatrox Prime, and I guess for Broderick Worr, if he were to go to planet number 1, he'll have a chance of winning that planet. If he goes to Barless, he's going to be able to kill this Toxic Venom Throat, but he'll win himself a couple of cards, but he's already got ammo depots, so if you're going for cards, plus you have those depots, they might not be the most beneficial things in the world, but you will get to elicit a random card discarded from our Tyranid player's hand, and then apart from that, I guess Broderick it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to set up at Ossus 4, just to get those desperately needed resources, with ammo depot taking care of your card draw, plus you could potentially steal a resource from our Tyranid, and I think that's pretty likely considering just how few mid-combat card tricks our Tyranids have. And even though Captain Marcus isn't doing a lot at that planet, he's still set up to keep winning resources round after round. So it looks like prezi must be terribly conflicted between what do you want to do with the Anxious Infantry Platoon, what do you want to do with the forward barracks. Will we see the barracks played? Will we see the platoon played at any of these planets? So I think I'm once again going to shut up and just wait. Okay, looks like I need not shut up at all. That is going to be forward barracks, and that, I imagine, is going to be our near to last deploy action. So the forward barracks is now in full effect, and we see no mercy drawn by prezi, and this could be an absolute nightmare for Old One-Eye, because an Anxious Infantry Platoon, like I said, could attack for 4 at a green planet or 3 at any other planet, and regardless, Broderick Worr, who need not necessarily show up at a planet to be involved in the thick of combat, he could easily take advantage of no mercy to disallow Old One-Eye the opportunity to shield, and a bloodied Old One-Eye, I believe he's maybe like a 1-6 or a 2-5 at best, and given the AM predilection for preemptive barrage, that could spell just outright disaster for our Tyranid. And note that even outside of this no mercy context, it's not as if dlord has a large volume of shield cards in hand, so both of our players are deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords, and now let's go ahead and see those dials revealed. Prezi is still taking a moment to think, so I'll be very curious to see if Old One-Eye ends up showing up at planet number 1. I'll be very curious to see if Broderick Worr ends up going to planet number 1, or planet number 3 or 4, or I suppose planet number 2, so there are certainly myriad options afforded to either of our players here, and let us see what exactly they decide to pick. All right, so it looks like prezi has indeed decided upon a destination. Let's see that reveal. That is going to be Old One-Eye arriving at planet number 1 to compensate for that Inquisitorial Fortress, and it's going to be the Stalking Lictor maybe being a little bit risky and arriving at planet number 4, and that's going to be all the more resources successfully deprived in the direction of Broderick Worr here. So dlord is going to end up winning command at planets 1 and 4. That's going to be a total of 2 cards and 2 resources for him, and it looks like Broderick Worr is once again going to rid the sector of these terrible toxic Venomthropes. So that's going to be another Venomthrope killed by Broderick Worr. That's going to be another couple of cards for him. He was fortunate enough to come across a third copy of his signature army unit, a monumentally powerful card, these Anxious Infantry Platoons, and if things weren't already looking good enough for him, he stumbled upon a copy of Commissarial Bolt Pistol, which is going to radically decrease the probability of Old One-Eye being able to bloody him, and furthermore, if he's going to be able to throw that on his Warlord, he's going to be able to attack for 3, and then whenever an army unit ends up leaving play, he's going to be able to deal damage out to enemy army units. So, planet number 1, we've now got a battle taking place at the beginning of the combat round. We've got this Termagant token being generated. I would not be shocked to see Clogged with Corpses destroying this troop transport, but, forward barracks is only going to be able to create guardsman tokens at the end of each combat round, so it may not be the most threatening card if our Tyranid is going to be able to dump a metric shit ton of units here at Yavvarn. We see the Volatile Pyrovore takes a swing. That's going to be that Mystic Warden killed. dlord indicates he has no actions, and it looks like prezi also indicates he's going to be done, and that'll be our Tyranid's opportunity to draw through his top 3 cards and pick one of those to be added to his hand. He's going to have to suffer a random card discard at this planet Barless. But what we could see is if our Tyranid, like during this following round, I can only imagine that our Tyranid player is going to send his units to Yavvarn. He's going to drop off his Warlord train at that planet and set himself up for a victory condition. We got the Great Scything Talons, the signature attachment of Old One-Eye, which is going to be great. Not only is it 3 shields, but it potentially allows Old One-Eye to deal a large amount of just hit for a lot of damage. And we've got a Virulent Spore Sacs that could also deal a ton of damage out to the Astra Militarum player. But perhaps most importantly, we've got a couple Volatile Pyrovores, which, like I keep saying, they're incredible value units. And if prezi doesn't end up coming across a large number of resources, he may not be able to achieve or accomplish sufficient unit volume to be able to beat his opponent here. So I can only imagine that dlord is going to let our soon-to-be planet number 1 pass him by entirely uncontested. That's going to be more cards for prezi, who's got this ammo depot in play, but dlord is just doing that resource choking game absolutely fantastically. So I guess Yavvarn here is a green planet, but I suppose what's the worst possible thing we could see? We do see Clogged with Corpses. It's going to be that Termagant sacrificed. It's going to destroy that troop transport. Looks like forward barracks isn't necessarily that much of a daunting card, and the more resources that dlord comes across, the more Tyranids he's going to be able to pile upon this planet, and if he's got multiple Termagant hordes, if there's anything the Astra Militarum can't necessarily do, it's going to be leverage a large amount of area effect. dlord lost a Tyranid Warrior to the random card discard effect, and I suppose if there's any card you've got to lose, that's definitely by no means the most offensive card to have to ditch. So prezi is going to be able to benefit from this Commissarial Bolt Pistol for sure. He came across a copy of Summary Execution, which is going to be basically worthless, and then the Stalwart Ogren isn't going to be the most useful effect either. But prezi, he's sitting at 8 cards, 4 resources. Our Tyranid has 6 resources and 9 cards, and now let us see. I can only imagine that Old One-Eye is going to end up being sent to planet number 2. He's going to drop off his unit train at that planet, make sure that everybody's set up and ready for the following round. Something very interesting here is we've got a copy of Heavy Venom Cannon, which I can only imagine is going to be used as shields because of this Inquisitorial Fortress threatening to remove it from a planet. And there's also, cards like the Emperor's Warrant, Suppressive Fire that could pose a huge problem. So I guess what are we going to see for our Tyranid? Great Scything Talons is going to bring Old One-Eye to have a total of, I suppose, 5 hit points remaining, but the problem is he's already at 2 points of damage. It's difficult for the AM player to do 5 damage in a single swing outside of the assistance of a Catachan outpost, and therefore that No Mercy is no longer looking like it's going to be a guaranteed bloodying of Old One-Eye. So We'll have to see what exactly occurs, and it's going to be tricky for Broderick to just try to start dumping units here at Yvonne to try to make sure that he can stay in this game. We've got a volatile Pyrovore being dropped off at planet number 2, and unless Prezi ends up coming across multiple copies, ideally multiple copies of troop transport, like he's not going to be able to play one this game, but he had better hope to high hell he comes across one during the following round, because it's going to be looking to be pretty insurmountable for him to just hope to win out against Old One-Eye here. So we've now got 2 volatile Pyrovores at planet number 2. We've got some strong AM units at planet number 1, but they're going to be showing up during the following round at Yvonne, and it's not looking terribly good for Broderick Worr. It's not looking like he can't win this game, but it's looking very good for dlord, and it's absolutely fantastic to see an Old One-Eye deck, a rather unconventionally constructed Old One-Eye deck at that, performing just so well in this tournament. So the Heavy Venom Cannon would normally be great, but Old One-Eye, of course, doesn't have any elites in play, and the Inquisitorial Fortress could just remove an elite from a planet. The shitty thing, though, is there are so many fantastic options for, like, it's such a difficult choice for what you'd want to remove with the Inquisitorial Fortress. The Lurking Hormigaunt is a 3/3 where it regenerates and it can reassign damage to Old One-Eye if he's not at that same planet. And then these Volatile Pyrovores are potentially 2-for-1 style cards. And Prezi doesn't have a lot of resources to keep putting a bunch of units at planet number 2, and similarly, he doesn't have a lot of shields in hand. He does have the Elysian Assault Team, but even if Old One-Eye ends up being kicked away from that planet, we could see Termagant hordes sitting there, just generating a ton of Termagant tokens, and then under the sheer bulk and weight of bodies, all of those tokens could end up killing off these anxious infantry platoons. If Broderick himself ends up being bloodied, which I would imagine is probably unlikely, then these anxious infantry platoons are going to be a huge liability once you've actually got to pay attention to their forced reaction, where a combat round ends and you've got to pay resources to keep them in play. So whether or not forward barracks ends up remaining in play or not, I could just as easily see dlord trying to dig through his deck in order to get some of those, I guess, just clogged with corpses to remove troop transports. I guess I didn't mention our new 5th and final planet. I hadn't really given too much thought to Warlord commitments, but that's going to be Broderick Worr going to Taurus, and unit count at the moment is going to be 5 for Broderick, and it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for our Tyranid. Interestingly, he sent the Stalking Lictor also to planet number 2. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't send the Lictor to planet 3 or 4, just to try to spread out his economy game. It looks like dlord is unfortunately only going to get a single resource, and I really hope that doesn't end up hurting our Tyranid dearly. Again, that was a very interesting choice, not sending the Lictor to a different planet, but Worr is going to show up at planet number 5, which is going to be Taurus, and that means he's going to be able to benefit from that ability. It's going to be presumably 3 resources for him, and he's going to be able to use that to just absolutely fill this planet number 2 with units. And I guess Virulent Spore Sacs could make a big bit of a difference, but for the sake of our Tyranid, let's hope that, I don't know, I guess during the following round, let's hope that he draws his additional, at least I presume, additional 2 copies of Virulent Spore Sacs, just to deal as much damage out as possible to all of these AM units positioned at that same planet. Boundless is going to be captured by Prezi. That is going to be the first planet added to his victory display. That's one of those green strongpoint type icons, and therefore, if he's going to be able to win at this current planet, he could set himself up very nicely to kind of take this game. I guess ignore what I just said if it doesn't make sense. But we've got planet battle breaking out at planet number 2. That's going to be at the beginning of a combat round. That's another Termagant token generated. A volatile Pyrovore is going to take a swing at the anxious infantry platoon. We've got a No Mercy as shields. We've got Commissarial Bolt Pistol and Summary Execution all as shields. These anxious infantry platoons could attempt to kill Old One-Eye. Again, what's going to be incredibly tricky is that No Mercy could result in the bloodying of Old One-Eye at any moment. But even if Old One-Eye is bloodied this round. He's kind of done his duty. He's dropped off all of his units at his victory condition planet, and provided that Old One-Eye wins at planet number 1 here, if Old One-Eye is sitting at planets 2, 3, or 4, and he's going to be murdered, if you win the game prior to your Warlord death, then you are still the victor. The Volatile Pyrovore did attack. We see a summary execution discarded as shields, therefore the Anxious Infantry platoon is going to survive. It's going to be able to attack for 4, and looks like dlord is currently thinking about something. I'm not sure exactly what. But it'll be Prezi's opportunity to attack things that could come into play here during the combat round. It looks like this ammo depot isn't going to be able to do much. The Inquisitorial Fortress could remove something, or we could see Staging Ground drop a Sakhalem Shrine Guard into play. We could see the Elysian Assault Team drop into play, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Old One-Eye bloodied right now, because he's currently sitting at 2 damage. We've got the Anxious Infantry platoon attacking Old One-Eye. We see Heavy Venom Cannon discarded as shields, and that's going to be that No Mercy play, so that is going to be a bloodied Old One-Eye. He did not have the opportunity to regenerate at any point. He's going to be currently bloodied, and there he is as a 1/6 Warlord. So that is the Tyranid Warlord bloodied, but frankly, it doesn't really matter that much. Now it just gives Old One-Eye the go-ahead that, yeah, fine, use your Great Scything Talons as a shield. It's not as if dlord is going to be foolish enough to send his Warlord to the next round's combat round number 1. And very interesting that Broderick decided to attack with his entirely Hail copy of Anxious Infantry platoon. I cannot almost wonder if that was a bit of a mistake, just because now this Volatile Pyrovore is going to be attacking for a total of 3, and unless we see the Commissarial Bolt Pistol discarded as a shield, that is going to be a dead infantry platoon, and then our Tyranids are going to be able to attack for only 2, and they're not quite going to be able to kill the Anxious Infantry platoon, and that is going to result in Forward Barracks generating a Guardsman token, but then our Tyranid's going to have an opportunity again to not just generate an additional Termagant token, but attack with all of these units, and it looks like there's definitely going to be a lot of there's just going to be a lot of fighting left to be done here at this planet. These Volatile Pyrovores, I can only imagine, are going to make it really, really difficult for Prezi to try to win at this planet, but when one of his soldiers dies, the Elysian Assault Team is going to be able to be dropped into play, the Guardsman token is going to be able to be dropped into play, the Inquisitorial Fortress can remove an enemy unit, and of course the Sakhalem Shrine Guard can be Staging Ground deployed to potentially attack for 3 as well. So, Anxious Infantry platoon attacks the Termagant Horde. We see the Great Scything Talons discarded as a shield, therefore they're only going to end up taking a single point of damage, and it looks like they are going to be able to survive long enough to create another Termagant token unless Prezi does use Staging Ground to put a unit into play, but it does not look as though that is the case. Looks like both of our players have currently passed, so maybe we will see something else used, but that's going to be the Termagant token attacking the Anxious Infantry platoon. There are no shields left for Prezi. That is going to be a dead unit. Will we see the Elysian Assault Team drop into play and potentially kill off our Termagant Horde? Like I was saying, it doesn't look as though our AM player might be able to win this combat, but he's definitely going to be able to kill off a large number of these Tyranids, and then it's just going to be up to what exactly both of our players are going to put into play during the following round in order to potentially win this one. We see Staging Ground used, and that's going to be the Sakhalem Shrine Guard dropped into play at this planet, and now I'll just be very curious to see, was it a big mistake to have the Stalking Lictor go to our current planet number 2 or not? The Sakhalem Shrine Guard attacks the Termagant Horde for 3. They are going to be able to kill it because our Tyranid has run out of shields, and that is going to be the end of this tide of Termagant tokens being generated. When we come to the end of a combat round here, that's going to still be a Guardsman token. It's going to be an Elysian Assault Team that can be dropped into play, and then our Tyranid really is out of combat tricks at this point, so the Stalking Lictor is going to be delivering an attack to one of these units. It looks like it's going to be the Anxious Infantry platoon, and then I can only imagine it'll be a Volatile Pyrovore or a Lurking Hormigaunt taking a swing and then dealing the killing blow to that same unit that would normally attack for 4, and I guess when we come to the end of a combat round here, that's going to be that forward barracks, generating the first of what I can only imagine is going to be a large number of guardsman tokens. dlord indicates that he, with initiative, is going to stay with all of his units, and Broderick Worr is basically forced to do the same. So our Tyranid's got 3 of those Pyrovores, he's got the Lurking Hormigaunt, but we could, like, let's say Volatile Pyrovore kills Anxious Infantry Platoon. We could see Elysian Assault Team, it won't drop into play yet, but then we could see the Sakhalem Shrine Guard kill a Pyrovore, and they'll basically swap one another out. Then a guardsman token could damage something, the guardsman token could get killed, we see the assault team drop into play, so a lot of different things that could occur, and it's looking like Prezi's not going to be able to win this planet, but he's going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage out to our Tyranid. So, Prezi ended up having his Anxious Infantry Platoon indeed killed by a Volatile Pyrovore. The Sakhalem Shrine Guard takes an attack at a Volatile Pyrovore that's entirely healed, Hail, and that's going to be a Sakhalem Shrine Guard killed, thanks to the Pyrovore's reaction, but that's going to be a 1-cost unit killing a 3-cost unit, so that's a fantastic trade, if I don't say so myself, on part of Prezi, and now it's just going to be this lone guardsman token attacking for 2, and then when it dies, we could see an Elysian Assault Team drop into play, and then, if it survives, that could be another guardsman token created, but whether or not we see another guardsman token being put into play, remember that our Tyranid has initiative, and an attack of 3 could easily kill out, like 1 lingering guardsman token, but that will be a Volatile Pyrovore attacking the Guardsman token for 3, and then when it dies, we might see an Elysian Assault Team, or we might see an Elysian Assault Team created during our following game round. And again, spectators coming and going, it's very interesting. Kevin Corvus Hines was in this match at some point earlier, the 2-time champion of 2 of these Octagon Leagues, and the 1-time runner-up. So just some incredible caliber of player watching this absolutely spectacular game, and I'm just loving every second of it. Fan of the Tyranids, fan of Old One Eye. And it looks like, once again, that's going to be another copy of Volatile Pyrovore destroyed by that Elysian Assault Team. So the Guardsman token was killed, the Elysian Assault Team enters play, kills a Volatile Pyrovore, that is going to be an exchange. That's going to be our Tyranid having the opportunity to win at this planet, but I can't envision our Tyranid actually triggering this battle ability. So at present, our Tyranid is going to have to win at this planet during the following round in order to win this game. He's not going to want to send Old One Eye to that planet, but Broderick Worr could arrive. Broderick Worr could throw out a copy of Steel Legion Chimera to that same planet. And our Tyranid has got a fair few units at that same planet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a shoo-in for him. Virulent Spore Sacs could help make a big bit of a difference, but, Captain Marcus will arrive at this planet. He'll be able to sack units like himself to exhaust Tyranids, and it just definitely looks like Old One Eye. It's either going to be make or break right now. Old One Eye during this game round is going to have to come back and win this one. I would imagine that Prezi's going to have himself draw or gain resources, and with 7 resources going into this presumable last battle, he could put out 2 Snakebite Thugs and a Steel Legion Chimera, and the amount of damage he could throw out to our Tyranid player is going to be absolutely ridiculous, and then with the likes of Forward Barracks, that could just be absolutely insurmountable. So I guess let's see if our Tyranid is going to lose his opportunity to win this game here. Broderick is indeed going to win resources from Taurus, and now all of a sudden it's looking pretty grim for our Tyranid. So let's hope that he draws some absolute gold. I'm trying to even think to myself what would be most beneficial for him to draw. We could see Old One Eye show up at planet number 1, but he's not going to be able to do much, just being able to attack for 1 by himself. Our Imperial Guard player got a copy of Tallarn Raiders, which is going to be able to attack for 3 at planet number 1. He's got some just great army units. Staging Ground isn't going to be the most useful thing ever. And this Steel Legion Chimera is just going to be a huge threat to our Tyranid. You've got to kill it first. It's got 4 hit points, and it's going to disallow you from dealing damage to Broderick Worr. And I can only imagine that Worr himself is going to be showing up at this planet, and I can only imagine that our Tyranid is going to just be beaten, battered, and broken, and have victory, as much as it kind of pains me to say it. I do not envision this battle at planet number 1 going well for our Tyranid, just because Broderick Worr was able to use such a kind of a train of tricks to remove all of those volatile pyrovores. He's still got the fortress, he's still got ammo depot and forward barracks, and Prezi's still got enough resources to keep throwing out these snakebite thugs. He's going to be showing up with a lot of units, and I guess at present, dlord only has enough resources left to do something like a virulent spore sacs, so even though it's going to be a lot of damage going out to the opponent, I cannot help but feel like Broderick Worr is going to be able to weather that storm, and really the only daunting thing here at this planet is going to be this lurking Hormigaunt, which is going to be able to reassign damage to Old One-Eye if he goes to, say, planet number 2 or wherever else. But it's just looking like this could be really, really tricky for our Tyranid to try to win. So Prezi throws out a copy of Stalwart Ogren at planet number 1. It's going to be a 3/2 immune to enemy events, but he's going to be able to arrive with Captain Marcus, the Anxious Infantry Platoon, and even if our Tyranid tries to pick off those exhausted and vulnerable units, he's going to have a hell of a time trying to do so because of this Steel Legion Chimera, and it itself is going to be able to attack for 3, and our Tyranid isn't really going to be able to bring anything more formidable to bear than the likes of these Termagant hordes, which attack for 1, Termagant tokens, which are going to be attacking for 1, the lurking Hormigaunt attacks for 3, the same thing with the volatile Pyrovore, but I guess really all our Tyranid has is this 2 shield value card, and considering that Old One-Eye is bloodied, considering that our Tyranid doesn't really have any economic presence on these, 3 later planets, I think if dlord loses at this planet, it's going to be a hellish time for him to try to get back in this one. So let's say dlord does not win the game this round. What he's going to have to do is he's going to have to try to reassess his victory condition for Aatrox Prime, but then that gives Prezi another round to use Ammo Depot to win at Ossus 4, to steal resources, to accrue resources, and it's just looking like it could go all the way bad here. So it's currently dlord's opportunity to play. He could use a Scything Hormagaunts to attack for 2, or he could use the Virulent Spore Sacs to detonate this unit, deal 1 point of damage to each and every AM unit sitting at that same planet, but it's not going to threaten to kill off any of these apart from Captain Marcus, and Captain Marcus may as well sacrifice himself during the command phase just to exhaust one of these Tyranids, like the Pyrovore or the lurking Hormigaunt, just because if he's going to die anyways, why not get rid of him? And then the more of these snakebite thugs that we end up seeing dropped into play at that planet, a 3/4 is going to be extraordinarily difficult to chew through for our Tyranid, and I cannot help but feel like dlord is going to just kind of, his momentum, it feels like it's going to burn out. Things were looking fantastic for him, but the way that Prezi has kind of masterfully constructed his deck, it's just such a fantastic means to grind out these attrition-style victories here. So let us pause for a moment and see what dlord decides to deploy with everything on the line. Okay, looks like he decided to go with the Virulent Spore Sacs, and let's see if that's going to be able to do enough. Of course, as a combat action, you can sacrifice that unit to deal 1 point of damage to each and every enemy unit at that planet and infest that planet. Of course, infesting it is going to be entirely irrelevant to the outcome of this match, and now it's going to be back to Prezi to use a deploy action. I would not be shocked to see a Snakebite Thug thrown out to that planet, and then I guess, like, let's say Broderick is going to be showing up at planet number 1, that means we're not going to be seeing any other AM units. Like, I guess I wouldn't be shocked to see a Talon Raiders thrown to planet number 2, just to use staging ground to dump a Snakebite Thug into play at planet number 1, but if that's the case, we could see the Stalking Lictor sent to planet number 2 to shut that off, and I really think Prezi might be playing a little bit conservatively just to try to make sure that he can get as many bodies as is possible to that first planet. Broderick Worr, I would imagine, is going to be sending himself to the first planet, and Broderick is going to be able to have initiative, so we could see the Steel Legion Chimera attack and try to kill off one of these units, and I'll just be very curious to see what exactly happens. Our Tyranid presently only has 1 shield card. Looks like that Talon Raiders is going to be played at planet number 1. And this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 command icons relative to 3 command icons, but I don't envision Old One-Eye being sent to planet number 1, just because that's definitely going to be tempting fate, and if Old One-Eye is at this point killed when he's already bloodied, then that's going to be the game won. dlord passes. Prezi is going to have to pass in just one moment, unless for some reason we see Inquisitorial Fortress used now. Looks like we see Ammo Depot that's going to be adding a card to Prezi's hand. Prezi comes across a copy of the Emperor's Warrant, and that means if Broderick Worr goes to planet number 1, if Old One-Eye does not go to planet number 1, that is going to be a fantastic opportunity for the Emperor's Warrant to do something along the lines of exhaust a Lurking Hormigaunt and deal 3 points of damage to the Volatile Pyrovore, and that could just be an absolute nightmare for our Tyranid and bring his odds of winning this game to absolute 0. So it looked like things were going all the way bad for Prezi, and now I'm kind of struggling to see how our Tyranid could possibly win, just because so many different effects are all working against him. I believe there's a pretty good reason why players don't necessarily consider the Tyranids as a faction to be quite on the same competitive tier as warlords like Broderick Worr and Packmaster Kith, but let us see here. Both of our players are currently in the process of deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords, and I believe Prezi is going to be done, so I can only imagine we're going to see Prezi at planet number 1. Old One-Eye might go to planet number 1 just to disallow the Emperor's Warrant and to make sure that he's the one to win that resource, or Old One-Eye may go to planet number 2 or 3 or 4, probably 3 or 4 just to draw an additional shield card, but we'll have to see what exactly happens. The forward barracks sitting here at planet number 1 is going to be a fantastic bit of additional grind to help Broderick Worr just crush, the regenerating skull of Old One-Eye under his jack-booted heel. Looks like Old One-Eye is going to go to planet number 3. The Stalking Lictor is going to go to planet number 4, so that's going to be 2 cards and 2 resources won by our Tyranid, but that means Prezi's going to get a resource at planet number 1. He's going to be able to use the Emperor's Warrant, or he could just use Staging Ground to drop a Snakebite Thug into play. Captain Marcus, we may as well use him during the command phase to exhaust, like, why not exhaust, I guess, the Termagant Horde, and then use the Emperor's Warrant here to knock out this target, or vice versa. And then just use your additional mountain of attacks to kill off all the existing Tyranids at that same planet. Looks like Prezi, yes, indicates that he's thinking about command actions. Our Tyranid got a copy of, it looks like, 2 Termagant Sentries, which are going to be entirely irrelevant to combat, so that's definitely a big bit of a shame for Old One-Eye to see there. And now I'll just be curious to see how the remainder of this match resolves. After this big decisive combat, I can only imagine that there's going to be absolutely no way that Old One-Eye is going to be able to win this one, because I guess in the best case scenario, Broderick Worr is going to have an unfortunately large number of units left, and then he can drop those off again at Aatrox Prime, his opponent's victory condition. I will say in Old One-Eye's favor, if Broderick presumably manages to defend this planet, there's going to be a large volume of units being added to Broderick Worr's HQ. Aatrox Prime is going to be able to blast those units, so I think Old One-Eye is playing a very clean, a very intelligent game. He's giving it his all, but whether or not he's going to be able to surmount the nigh unstoppable AM Warlord Broderick Worr definitely remains to be seen. So, Prezi is currently thinking about command actions. If it were me, I would be thinking, is there any way that I can try to reserve the Emperor's Warrant for a subsequent round? But, the choice you've got here, yes, so Captain Marcus, what are you going to exhaust? I guess, are you going to get rid of a Termagant Horde? Okay, so he's getting rid of a Volatile Pyrovore, and therefore I can only imagine that he might be using the Emperor's Warrant to remove exhaust a Lurking Hormigaunt and deal its damage to either a Termagant Horde or a Termagant Token, just to make sure that you actually remove something, because you want to minimize the amount of damage that you're incurring. So the Volatile Pyrovore is going to be exhausted. Captain Marcus was going to die anyway, so he might as well be removed from the game, and he may as well do something beneficial. He's dealt 2 points of damage to Old One-Eye, and he's exhausted a Volatile Pyrovore. Whether or not that's worth 3 resources, who knows, but he did at least enable Old One-Eye to be bloodied. So, note that Broderick possesses the initiative token, and unfortunately, I think this is where our Tyranid player is going to have his bed shit for him, because Broderick is going to be able to attack, well, okay, let's say Emperor's Warrant knocks out Lurking Hormigaunt. The Termagant token is going to be killed. The Termagant Horde is going to generate another Termagant token, so that's going to be 2 Tyranid attackers. The Virulent Spore Sacs will explode, but they're not going to be able to kill any of these units, and then our Tyranid player can attack with both of his units, but he's not going to be able to kill off the Steel Legion Chimera. The Chimera could use its last action to kill the Volatile Pyrovore, or the Talon Raiders could, you know, like these two, the Raiders and the Stalwart Ogren could kill the Lurking Hormigaunt, or they could kill the Termagant Horde. There are a ton of different options here for Broderick Worr to turn our Tyranid's life into an absolute nightmare, and if he feels like it's necessary to do so, he could have used the Inquisitorial Fortress during the command phase to remove the Termagant Horde from this planet, and therefore it would have been disallowed from creating any additional tokens. And it looks like Prezi actually states, sorry, before, so I could imagine that's going to be the Inquisitorial Fortress being used prior to a combat round beginning. Okay, no, it looks like we're using the Emperor's Warrant prior to a battle beginning to exhaust the Lurking Hormigaunt to deal damage to the Termagant Horde. I can only imagine that we're going to see the Heavy Venom Cannon discarded to prevent that from being lethal damage, and that will allow the Termagant Horde the opportunity to generate a token unless we do see the Inquisitorial Fortress remove it from that same planet. So what exactly are we going to see? Will we see the Heavy Venom Cannon discarded, or will we just... Okay, we do see it discarded, so it is going to be able to survive, but during our combat phase prior to the onset of the first combat round, will we see the Inquisitorial Fortress remove the Termagant Horde from that planet, or not? Our Tyranid uses his action of detonating the Virulent Spore Sacs. That's going to be 1 point of damage to each and every AM unit at the same planet, and that's going to be nice, but it's not necessarily going to be enough. So it looks like Prezi now indicates that he's done. We do see a Termagant token generated, and this is going to be a total of 3 points of damage that we might see dealt to this Steel Legion Chimera. But the Chimera could use its first attack to kill a Termagant Horde. Our Tyranid is going to be out of shield cards, and let me take a moment to look at our Tyranid player's discard pile just to see what he has used in regard to shields. So he's used 2 shield cards and 1 3 shield card. So I think if it were me, I'd be relatively comfortable using the Steel Legion Chimera to try to kill that Termagant Horde, just because I feel comfortable making that risk. Worst case scenario is I'm not going to be able to end up killing it, and it looks as though we actually see our Talon Raiders used first. So the Talon Raiders manages to attack, they kill the Termagant Horde, and now it's only going to be 2 copies of Termagant token left to attack at that same planet. So that's going to be a Termagant token attacking the Steel Legion Chimera. That's going to be a point of damage successfully dealt to it. Note that we're not going to have any shield cards remaining for either of our players. That's going to make our math incredibly easy to calculate. And now Broderick is going to be able to take an attack, kill the last remaining Termagant token. And now what really sucks is this Lurking Hormigaunt is going to be able to be attacked by the Steel Legion Chimera, and if it weren't for its ability to reassign damage to Old One Eye, it would just be outright rolled over by this attack. So we could see the Stalwart Ogren kill the Volatile Pyrovore. It could attack for 3, and then it could basically trade its life for the Pyrovores, and then we could just see our remaining AM units kind of steamroll over these remaining Tyranids, but things are definitely looking awfully grim for Old One Eye. The Stalwart Ogren kills the Volatile Pyrovore. The Volatile Pyrovore's reaction triggers, or sorry, its interrupt triggers and kills the Stalwart Ogren, which is only immune to enemy events, not card abilities. So Prezi indicates that he is going to be done. That Steel Legion Chimera is going to take a swing at the Lurking Hormigaunt. I can only imagine that's going to be 2 points of damage. Well, we could see 1 point of damage reassigned to Old One Eye, or 2 points of damage reassigned to Old One Eye, and then we could see the regeneration used or not. So that's going to be 2 points of damage on the Hormigaunt, 1 point of damage on Old One Eye. The regeneration is going to be used to whisk away the damage from the Lurking Hormigaunt. That is going to bring us to the end of a combat round. We're going to see a Guardsman token being generated thanks to Forward Barracks, and note that Broderick Worr is still going to have initiative. He might as well run his Warlord away from this planet, but he doesn't necessarily need to do so. So you know, whatever, doesn't really matter too terribly much. We do see that Guardsman token being added to play, and is Old One-Eye going to remove his Lurking Hormigaunt from this planet? At this point, I do not believe there's absolutely anything that Old One-Eye is going to be able to do to get himself back in this game. I envision Prezi becoming the first ever champion of the Black Crusade, as, you know, things had been looking pretty damn grim, and now it just looks as though dlord is going to be up against insurmountable odds here. So, looks like both of our players have decided to stay at this planet. That's going to be the Anxious Infantry Platoon attacking that Lurking Hormigaunt. It's only got 3 hit points, but it's going to be taking a swing of 2. Old One-Eye is going to accrue 2 points of damage. The Lurking Hormigaunt takes 2 points of damage. Now the Hormigaunt is going to be able to attack, I presume, the Steel Legion Chimera, just to ensure that he's going to be able to kill off that unit, but Aatrox Prime is going to be able to do a lot of damage as well. So we could also see the Hormigaunt direct its attack at Broderick Worr, but it looks like it's going to be attacking that Steel Legion Chimera, which would have been destroyed by Aatrox Prime regardless. So it's not as if our Tyranid player knows it, because, like, there's no way to know for sure that your opponent doesn't have any shield cards left, but unfortunately that was a rather suboptimal attack, and now it's going to be our AM player's opportunity here to have Broderick attack, kill the Termagant token, and the Talon Raiders attacks, kills off the Lurking Hormigaunt, or vice versa, or whatever order you choose. Unfortunately for Prezi, it looks like he's going to run out of, he's going to have too many combat turns for as few enemy units are remaining, so he's not going to be able to come to the end of a combat round and generate another Guardsman token. But that's going to be the Guardsman token killing the Termagant token, so token warfare at planet number 1. It's going to be no actions for our Tyranid. Again, Tyranids definitely lack combat tricks. Prezi indicates he has no actions, and now it's going to be the Warlord or the Talon Raiders finishing off this Lurking Hormigaunt with absolutely nothing that dlord is going to be able to do to resist it. There's not going to be any ferocious strength or dark cunning or anything along those lines, and Old One-Eye himself is no longer able to regenerate, and he's sitting at 3 points of damage. So Prezi calls out, is there any action? And the answer is going to be no for our Tyranid, and now it's going to be up to Prezi to just finish picking off all the enemy units from this same planet. Old One-Eye is going to win the battle at Aatrox Prime. That's going to be a grievously wounded infantry platoon, and Guardsman token, it's going to be a dead Talon Raiders, and it's going to be a rather wounded copy of Broderick Worr as well. But that is going to be the end of combat here. I can't envision Yvarn being triggered. Prezi is out of resources, otherwise he could do something cute, like drop a Snakebite Thug into play at the same planet as Old One-Eye, so unfortunately he's not going to be able to chase our Tyranid away from that planet. That would definitely be adding significant insult to injury, or adding all the more injury to injury if you're able to drop a 3-4 into play and beat away your opponent's 1-3 Warlord. And now I think it's just going to be a matter of time as the remainder of this game is going to be played through. So Prezi asks his opponent, am I going to be winning at planet number 1? dlord indicates why, which I can only imagine, indicates yes, but for me, I always think like why as in the question why. Prezi does not trigger that planet, to no one's surprise. It's going to be added to his victory display. He's now sitting upon 2 green strongpoint type planets, and I guess I did my math ever so slightly wrong. All we're going to have to see is Prezi winning at Ossus 4, and that is going to be the game. Unfortunately for Old One-Eye is not going to be able to live long enough to be able to win at Aatrox Prime. Like, Old One-Eye is currently sitting on 2 blue and 1 red material type icons, so it's either going to be Old One-Eye. God, those were not favorable cards for Old One-Eye to see. He's going to have to find some miracle to win the game at planet number 1, or otherwise it's going to be in the bag here for Prezi. And if Prezi is going to be able to capture planet number 1, that is going to be our Winter 2016 first ever inaugural The Black Crusade Championship. And looks like War Master Sam Mann may as well get the crown polished and ready for Prezi. And it looks like Poland may end up taking home the victory, and if so, a monumental congratulations to Marek for managing to take this one home. But dlord is not quite out of the running yet. Paul Steiner of the 40kconquest.blogspot.com fame indicates, that he's out. Congrats to both of our players. So he was the I think, the second ever Octagon Tournament champion, so if nothing else, this game has drawn a hell of a crowd, in addition to the several hundred viewers that'll be watching this video. So at planet number 1, dlord uses one of, well, a couple of scarcely few remaining resources to put a copy of Soaring Gargoyles into play. It's a 2/3 flying hive mind unit. Also at planet number 1, we've got a Termagant Sentry, which is a 1/2 for 1. It's got a command icon, but presuming that Broderick Worr is going to be showing up at planet number 1, that is not going to be enough to beat off Broderick Worr, so I guess let's see what's going to happen. Our Tyranid only has 3 resources remaining. He doesn't have another copy of Virulent Spore Sacs. He throws out a copy of Scything Hormagaunts, which itself is only going to be a 2/2 unit, so he's got a 2/3 flyer, a 1/2, and a 2/2, and he's going to be able to have to deal with a whole hell of a lot of Imperial Guard units. He'll be able to send his Stalking Lictor to that same planet, or he'll be able to send Old One-Eye to planet 2, and the Lictor to planet 3 to get more cards, which means more shields. We could see regeneration put into play on the Soaring Gargoyles to make it difficult to deal with the unit, but if you stack an attachment on a unit, it makes it all the more appealing target for this Inquisitorial Fortress. And Prezi, of course, he uses his Ammo Depot. He drew another copy of Ammo Depot, which he probably won't end up playing, just because you'd invest your last resource in something where you could draw an additional card. Rattling Deadeye could be dropped at this planet to attack for 2 during ranged, and I guess Broderick Worr has got a 3/4 at this planet. He's got a 3/2 at this planet, and he's still got forward barracks. He's still got staging ground. He's got an Inquisitorial Fortress. Of course, Broderick Worr himself is going to be a 2/6. Even if Broderick ends up getting bloodied, it's not necessarily going to be the end of the world, because all you've got to do is chew through a few more Tyranid units, and then that is going to be the game. The Anxious Infantry Platoon is going to be able to attack for 4, provided that it survives long enough at this planet. And I guess worst case scenario is going to be Broderick being bloodied, and then if that happens, he'll be banished from the planet, and then Prezi's going to have to invest additional resources in that unit just to keep it around fighting. But if Old One-Eye goes to planet number 1, that may be a bit of a death sentence for him, so it looks like Broderick might end up winning a couple of resources at planet number 1. If he does that, he could use Staging Ground to drop a Snakebite Thug into play. Even if the Anxious Infantry Platoon can't manage to stay at that planet, it just looks like things are going to be so incredibly difficult for our Tyranid to overcome. But this is going to be the game-deciding battle. Looks like Old One-Eye and the Stalking Lictor are going to be arriving at planet number 1. Broderick Worr is going to arrive at planet number 1 as well. That means we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 command icons relative to 1, 2, 3 Tyranid versus AM, so that's going to be 2 resources earned by dlord, and now Prezi is going to have no resources going into this stage here. He could use Inquisitorial Fortress to remove the Soaring Gargoyles from this planet. Old One-Eye is going to have the opportunity to attack first, but this is going to be rather difficult indeed. We could even see the Inquisitorial Fortress. Actually, I don't think there's no action window prior to the resolution of command struggles, so we cannot use Inquisitorial Fortress to remove the Stalking Lictor and then both players tie in regard to command. Note that this planet is not infested, and we need not worry about anything relevant to infestation anyways. But the Soaring Gargoyle is going to be removed from this planet, and now let us see if there's absolutely anything that Broderick is going to be able to do. And now let us see if there's absolutely anything that dlord is going to be able to do to try to salvage the game here. So with everything on the line, this is going to be the last combat of the game. So, the initiative is in dlord's hands, but we do have a ranged attacker. That's going to be the Rattling Deadeye, attacking for 2 during ranged. Our Tyranid does have a 1 shield value card. That's going to be Old One-Eye that's taking that shot. Old One-Eye is going to be reduced to a single hit point, and now it's going to be up to our Tyranid to retreat with his Warlord. Otherwise, he's going to risk losing the game. And Prezi indicates that he is done. No additional actions, and now is Old One-Eye going to attack, or is he going to retreat? Either way, it looks like this game is in the bag, and Prezi is going to be able to walk away as our champion. So, dlord, it's going to be up to you. We see Old One-Eye use his combat turn to retreat. The Soaring Gargoyles is going to be removed from this planet, and now it's going to be Prezi's opportunity to attack. He could attack with his Warlord, or he could attack with his Snakebite Thug, and he's going to be able to kill off the Scything Hormagaunts no matter what, although Prezi, of course, does not know that. Prezi doesn't have the resources or cards to use any combat tricks to help him resolve this planet, but Forward Barracks is basically going to guarantee that he's going to be able to win this planet, although he's going to be able to win it regardless. So Prezi's attack. Will it be the Snakebite Thug for 3? Will it be the Sakhalem Shrine Guard for 3? I suppose it may as well be the Shrine Guard, considering they've got so fewer resources, so fewer HP, and Prezi isn't sitting on any shield cards in hand. So let's see. Prezi calls out, "Can I?" dlord indicates that he is done. The Sakhalem Shrine Guard are going to take a swing at that Scything Hormagaunts. The Scything Hormagaunts are going to be killed, and now it's just going to be our Tyranid with 3 1 attack value units remaining at this planet. There's no Ferocious Strength, there's no Dark Cunning, and quite frankly, there's absolutely nothing that Old One-Eye is going to be able to do. So dlord indicates that it seems GG, but is he going to call out the GG or not? I can only imagine that he did call it out, so that is going to be the good game. Congratulations to Prezi. Congratulations to Marek for managing to pilot Broderick War to victory. Thank you so much to each and every one of you viewers for watching the, this game, for potentially watching all of my coverage of the inaugural Winter 2016 season of the Black Crusade War Master Sam Mann's online competitive Octagon Conquest LCG Tournament League. It's been a hell of a trip, but very well played by dlord. A tremendous congratulations to both of our players. Unfortunately, Belarus was not able to eke out the victory on this one, and from the very jaws of defeat, it looks like Prezi has turned this right around, and he's managed to beat, bloody, and pulverize Old One-Eye and steal the championship. So, congratulations again to the first ever Black Crusade champion Octagon user, Prezi. It's been a hell of a trip. I'm very glad that I could provide as much coverage as I did, so a huge thanks to each and every one of 115 or so players. A huge thanks to Sam Mann for putting on this tournament, and a tremendous thanks to you, the viewers, for tuning in and enjoying all of these games. So, as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to this channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, you're always encouraged to share these videos, because the more engagement this content receives, the more likes, shares, comments, all of that stuff, all of it means more people end up being exposed to Conquest LCG, we continue to grow our community, and of course, altogether, we continue to send the message to Fantasy Flight Games, telling them to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you ever feel so inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant and contribute to my cause, I would be absolutely honored, humbled, and deeply appreciative were you to consider donating $1 or $2 on a strictly monthly basis to my Patreon. But, as always, thank you so much for watching. I definitely encourage you to check out the Black Crusade at blackcrusadeleague.blogspot.com and consider signing up for the Spring 2016 season. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.